All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Hey everybody, it is the Mark Thompson Show on a Friday. Thank you for being here. Mark had a little surgery on his hand yesterday, and I talked to him last night, and he said he was having a little pain. And so I hope that he's resting right now and recovering, and he will be back on Monday. But for now, it's just me and Albert. But Albert, we have a lot of guests coming up today. We've got
and one of your close friends that you have another show with is hopping on the show.
Super excited. Nikki Medoro, former KGO talk show host and host of the Nikki Medoro Show here on YouTube, will hop on with us and talk a little politics. We were in Friday Fabulous Florida, of course, is upcoming. We were going to have Jim Avila on the show, and Michael Shure was kind of iffy, but now I've just been informed that we'll get to see Michael Shure and Jim Avila today. Well, that's pretty cool. And of course, Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, will round it out with streaming options and movies at the end of the show. So it's going to be a jam-packed full Friday show, and let's get it underway here on the Mark Thompson Show with Mark's Madness. We've got that going on too, so pretty good stuff, Albert.
I'm excited, and
I am too.
We'll wait for this to hit.
There it is. Okay, so first thing I wanted to mention is this raging fire at Heathrow Airport in London. Boy, this was a conflagration. Shut the whole place down. This is affecting 200,000 passengers. I think the airport is still closed today, Albert. So this is a fire that happened at an adjacent building. They think it may be an electrical fire. So far, there's no evidence of sabotage, but they can't rule out foul play yet. But there's no air traffic at London's Heathrow Airport, which is a big deal. Let's watch the video.
Well, that fire, which broke out late on Thursday night in Hayes, a West London suburb, is still being battled by local firefighters. Like you said, around 150 people had to be evacuated, thousands left without power. Clearly, Heathrow Airport is so reliant on the power substation that this fire affected that it's going to have to close for the entire day. Now, we know that airports sometimes have to close for hours at a time, sometimes half a day, but closing for an entire day is really very, very rare. And it's not just any airport we're talking about. This is Heathrow Airport, Europe's busiest. Some estimates put it as the second busiest in the entire world, just behind Dubai. 83 million passengers passed through Heathrow Airport last year. 230,000 passengers go through Heathrow Airport every single day. And like you said, those 1,300 flights that take off and land every single day as well. So to close any airport for an entire day is disruptive, but to close an airport like Heathrow for the entire day is hugely disruptive.
Indeed. Yeah. So they'll keep investigating this fire and figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, speaking of air travel, there are travel warnings now being posted against the United States. The UK and Germany are warning their citizens that if you travel to the United States, you best have your visas in order because they're cracking down on things like this. And there are people that are being held that didn't expect that they would be held, that didn't have their paperwork in order. So that is happening as well. Something else that happened this morning, there was a press conference from the Oval Office. Pete Hegseth was there, I believe, and Trump was there. They touched on the Russia-Ukraine war. They talked about NATO, and they talked about this new story, Albert. The story came out in the New York Times yesterday that Elon Musk is headed to the Pentagon today at the request of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and that supposedly, according to the New York Times, Musk is going to be read in on operational war plans. What would happen if the United States somehow found itself at war with China? We have a plan for that. We have a plan for everything. And these secrets are closely guarded. You don't just disseminate them to people especially people who have no business being at the Pentagon or are not elected. And there's a lot of concern that Elon Musk will have now access to this information. What will he do with it? Well, Trump says it's fake news. The New York Times is fake news. I will tell you that it's my understanding that if you're at a publication like the New York Times, at a really big news agency, you have to have multiple sources in order to go public with such a story. They don't just report it and not have facts to back it up. But Trump says this is fake news. Let's watch the video.
Mr. President, what do you say to American military families who are seeing Elon Musk at the Pentagon today, are hearing about Defense Department cuts, and their thoughts are immediately going to the safety of their loved ones who are currently deployed?
Well, we're making our country strong. And when they see a thing like that and they hear that story about Elon and China, what they should do is realize that the New York Times is a corrupt institution, because I think they're the ones. They knew that story wasn't true. Nobody believed that story. People that, when I first called, they laughed when they heard the story. Nobody believed it, that the Pentagon was giving him a briefing on what war with China would look like, and he has business. No, they made that up because it's a good story to make up. They're very dishonest people. I have it with the Times, and you'll see more and more of it. To me, it's a very, very dishonest organization. But a story like that is made up. It's total fiction. And I just wanted to make sure. I called up Chief of Staff and I called up Pete, and I said, "Is there any truth to that?" Absolutely not. He's there for Doge, not there for China. And if you ever mention China, I think he'd walk out of the room. He wouldn't take it anyway. So it's just a made-up story.
Just a made-up.
Yeah, just a made-up story. Okay, New York Times reporting made-up stories now. Calvin Wong says, "You find your war plans in Trump's bathroom, remember?" Of course, that's how seriously they take the nation's secrets, right? By the way, all those documents that were stored in the bathroom and then resent back to the government and regrouped back where they need to be, Trump took them all and took them back to whatever bathroom he wanted to take them to at Mar-a-Lago. So that's how they feel about the nation's secrets. After all the attention on sharing secrets, will Musk get his hands on secrets at the Pentagon? I don't know, but he is headed there today. We'll talk more about this story with Jim Avila and Michael Shure a little bit later in the show. Today is also, oh, there they are again. Today, we'll run that video a little later as well. I don't want to trump you too much at the beginning of the show because you just had your Wheaties, and I don't want to upset you guys too much. So let's do something fun. How about we talk about Mark's Madness? What happened yesterday, Albert?
Yesterday we had a couple one-sided votes. As if you were here yesterday, you could check the live stream from yesterday. Mm-hmm. We had a wife crew today go against Larry King's scene. Larry King won overwhelmingly, and AOC Baby Girl, which I think is one of the favorites, also won yesterday.
I have it to go all the way, Albert. I'm not going to lie.
You're not the only one. A lot of people's brackets have AOC going pretty far. So
yeah.
Mark isn't here, but we did pre-record what drops are going to be played today. So
let's hear it.
To that.
Mark's Madness.
It's red hot, everybody. Oh, yeah. It'll be either this hour.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
Or
put that coffee down.
Oh, it's a classic contest. Again, you'll either vote for.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
Or you'll vote for.
Put that coffee down.
Vote in the post section of our YouTube channel. Good luck, Mark's Madness. It's a big weekend finish. Woo!
Yeah, Gordon says AOC all the way. Now, if you want to vote, even if you didn't fill out a bracket, you can do that. You hit the coffee cup icon, right? And it will give you all the menu tabs. And then is it the post section, Albert?
Post section on YouTube. If you're subscribed to the show, you could check your subscription tab as well. Mm-hmm. But if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Or you could, like I said, at the YouTube page, go to posts, and right now we do have it up right now. Nothing in our history and Coffee Down are both hanging out here.
Okay.
Feel free to vote.
All right. Let's do it. Let's vote, and then we'll check in the second hour who won, and then we'll give you the hour number 2 contestants as well. That comes up at about a little after 12 o'clock.
That is correct.
Yeah, thank you, Albert.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Right now, I am going to the host of the Nikki Medoro Show here on YouTube. It happens every Thursday. I am delighted to welcome my friend Nikki Medoro to the Mark Thompson Show.
Hello, my friend. Hi.
How are you?
I get to see you twice in 1 week. I'm very excited about this.
It is pretty exciting. I'm not going to lie. So the Nikki Medoro Show, once a week, it's something fun that we do. We have a little cocktail, a little mocktail.
A little one?
Sometimes, just a little one. And then we talk a little bit about politics, and that happens every Thursday.
Yes.
And that is on YouTube, and you can subscribe to the Nikki Medoro Show.
Yep.
It is the Nikki Medoro Show. You see it on the screen there.
Yeah.
And trying to grow the show. So thanks you, everyone, for subscribing to the Nikki Medoro Show.
Yeah.
And helping get it a little further down the road here as, Mark Thompson achieves this great success. We'd like to pull up the Nikki Medoro Show as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely different than the Mark Thompson Show. Just to warn everybody, we have our cocktails. I like to consider it like we commiserate about the week's news, like
Me
you
too.
would. Kim, we just sit there like girlfriends and we just kind of go WTF over the week's news, and we talk with all the viewers, and we have a damn good time doing it. And we talk about politics. We talk about fun things, movies. We're both moms, so we also talk about those types of things. So I love it. We just love doing the show once a week. So it's a really good time. So anyone wants to join us, Thursdays, 5 Pacific is live. And then, of course, it's recorded on YouTube because of the magic of YouTube.
Please subscribe to it right now.
Yes.
Do it. Just do it while you're thinking about it. Just do it.
Exactly.
So one of the stories that popped up between the time we talked last night and this morning is the one we were just talking about with the allegations made by the New York Times, the reporting that Trump is calling fake news, that Elon Musk is headed to the Pentagon, invited by Pete Hegseth, and that they're going to share operational details of war plans, like what would happen if the United States went to war with China. Now, Trump says this is not true. This is ridiculous. But yet it's reported by the New York Times, which immediately to me gives it an credibility.
Right. I mean, I think the problem that we all face with this presidency and this administration, well, one, Donald Trump calls everything fake news that is critical of him. And so he loses credibility. Two, there's no evidence. Like you had mentioned before, the New York Times has to have sources, right? That is, giving this information to them. Donald Trump just says fake news and that's it. Now, obviously, do we want Elon Musk to have this information? Of course not. Do I hope that what Donald Trump is saying is true, that it's complete nonsense, that the people within the Pentagon aren't giving it? But he has yes men and women around him. If he tells the people within the Pentagon, hey, give Musky boy over here the information, why not? I mean, Musk is just, his own son is within the Oval Office. Who knows whose eyes and ears are all over the place? And you had mentioned before, all those private classified documents were in the man's bathroom. We have already documented that the guy doesn't know how to keep sensitive information safe. So I really wouldn't put it past him that he would do something like this. So yeah, it's not surprising.
It seems to me like Musk has his fingers in every piece of the governmental pie, that they're not keeping very much secret from him. There's a judge that said, I think yesterday, a judge said, we're going to put an injunction on giving Musk access to Social Security data information. But I think it's too late. He's already had his people dipping into it. He probably already has everything he needs. And now we invite him to the Pentagon to do what? To I don't know, get information from the Pentagon computer systems as well. It's very concerning to me because I just don't trust Elon Musk. And I don't trust him to keep America's secrets safe when he has business with so many other countries. What kind of information is he willing to deal to get more billions in his pocket?
Well, not only that, but it wasn't just Elon Musk. It was like, what, 7 other people were also allowed in there to dig around in Americans' private information, social security information. Who are these people? Why were they given access? In the past, you had to go through a bunch of hoops to even get close to the amount of access that Elon Musk and these handful of people were just given simply because of who they are and who they know. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make Americans feel any better. And Donald Trump just being like, oh, it's Elon Musk, it's okay. It just gives more credence to the idea that Elon Musk bought the presidency because he's not allowed to be president. It's that he's this shadow president that's not in the shadows. It's so blatant, his influence on Donald Trump. He is literally right there. We see more of Elon Musk than JD Vance. That's all I have to say. So
it's true. We see way more Musk than JD Vance.
So yeah.
This guy is going to have all of America's secrets, and I'm
he
very
already does.
Yeah,
he probably put a computer thing in. Who knows? He's just smart. I'm putting that in quotes. Who knows what kind of computer software he put into the system? I mean, again, putting my tinfoil hat on, I don't know any of this, but it's possible. We don't know because we don't have access. He's not testifying before Congress. There's no oversight. And we're just supposed to, as Americans, believe there's nothing nefarious going on. They're just asking us to believe this. And I think it's completely unfair for this administration to just say, trust us. Why? Why should we trust you? Because you're rich? Sorry, that's not enough.
It seems like it's enough for Trump to say fake news, and half of America goes, oh,
well,
okay, no problem. We're not going to worry about that. It's this constant targeting of the media and the distrust of the media that I think is as big of a deal as what's happening in the White House. Because we know that to have a healthy democracy, we need a healthy media, right? We need information. We need reporters that are able and ready to call authorities on the carpet. Right. And to highlight what's happening. You cannot just dismiss the media as fake news. This does not work for me.
Well, it's working for Donald Trump. And he's convinced his supporters to not believe anything that comes out of the media. That's how dictators work, right? It's like, don't believe the media, just believe me. And he's quite successful at it. I mean, that is literally what is, of course, don't believe the media. And now he's consolidated the media. Fox News is the #1 news station. Although if you ask any of them, they're like, nobody listens to liberal media. It is such a weird way of thinking about media. And he has everybody convinced. So yeah.
He even said the other day at some type of press conference, whatever it was. Oh, it was during an interview. I might have been with Fox and Friends. He called CNN and MSNBC illegal. Okay,
they're a crime now.
They're a crime. It's all a crime.
It's just a crime, yeah.
And we laugh and make fun of it,
but it's scary.
But it's really scary.
It's frightening.
It's really frightening because if one person has such control over the information being given to the American people, can take away FCC licenses, can dissuade people away from media, which I would argue, and I know people are like, oh, the media is awful. Oh, it's horrible. When you work in mainstream media, in the big media, I'll say it again, you have to back up your stories with sources. You don't just get to come out and say whatever it is that you want. So when I'm not talking about opinion pieces, I'm talking about reporting pieces. This is, I don't even, there are no words for what's happening right now in the media. It's very scary, and it seems like these media companies are falling to the pressure of Trump.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's also scary is the consolidation of media. The destruction of local media.
Yeah.
And also I think largely the apathy of many in the public who just are like, no, it's all fake news. I'd rather get my news from TikTok. And it's insane. The loss of voice of America internationally, the international impact of losing voice of America is huge. Not, here in America, it's one thing, but in a lot of these other countries where Voice of America or Radio Free America, that was their only source of information. And now it is TikTok, and where nonsense is spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Think about that. It is frightening. That's all I can say. You're absolutely right, Kim. It's frightening.
Let's move to, I saw this picture yesterday and I saw this comment in the chat. Did anyone see, writes Look This Way, did anyone see the huge turnout for burning an AOC in Tempe, Arizona last night? They write, I was electric. There were thousands outside the full stadium that couldn't even get in. I saw a picture of Bernie Sanders and AOC clasping raised hands, and it almost looked like a campaign. There they are. I'm like,
look at that.
Is that 2028? No, I don't think he'll run.
No, no, Bernie's not running ever again. I don't know. He's
look
never
at
run.
that image. And I think that people that are, I don't know, not just Democrats, but kind of seeing the feeling the frustration of what's happening with Trump are looking for some bright light to lead them out of this, horribleness that's happening in Washington, D.C. And here are these two holding these events that are, filling up. And as Look This Way said, they're standing room only, even outside people couldn't get in. And it speaks to the fact that we are desperate for something else.
Yeah. Well, and I also think it's like, and we talked about this on our show yesterday, it's this idea of what is the Democratic Party? I was listening, and forgive me, I don't know if it was Chris Murphy. I think it was a Democratic congressman talking about the Democratic Party used to talk about reform. We were the party of reforming government, but we lost our way, and the Republican Party took up that messaging. And in the last presidential election, we kept talking about government as if the government was working for the people. And people were like, no, I don't like how the government is. But the Republican Party was the only one saying, we're going to change the government. We kept talking about protecting democracy. And a lot of Americans heard that as protecting the status quo. And they're like, I don't like the status quo. I might not necessarily understand what Donald Trump is giving me, but I sure as hell don't like what this is. And so we lost our way as the Democratic Party. Is AOC the right leader for the Democratic Party? I saw some of the comments saying, I hope she's not. She's a divisive figure. I don't know if she's going to play for the entire country, but she definitely speaks about the issues in a way in which I agree. I do. But I don't know if she's the face of it. I like Pete Buttigieg. I think he's palatable. I think obviously the only, if you want to call it a demerit, I don't, obviously is his sexuality if it's going to play across the country. But other than that, I think that his ability to explain the issues to right-wing voters, chef's kiss. He's so good at it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see what happens in 2028. I'm curious, but the Democratic Party has a lot to do in 2026 and in 2028.
It almost seems like Bernie Sanders is telling the people who love him, hey, AOC is next. And I don't know if middle America will vote for her. I think I like her, but I feel like similar to Gavin Newsom, and maybe you could argue politicians that are, liberal from California, or maybe it has nothing to do with California, that if you're pegged as one of these ultra liberals, right, one of these progressives, that you're not middle of the road enough to attract the American voter in the Midwest or in the swing states. And that, I think, is what Gavin Newsom is trying to do with his, inviting the MAGA politicians on his podcast called This Is Gavin. He also has another podcast called Politickin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Isn't he supposed to be like governing our state? But I guess he's just too busy. I don't know.
It runs itself. It's okay, Nikki. We can look away. But I think he's trying to get to this middle of the road place. And I don't know if that's a place that AOC will ever be. And maybe we'll be ready for that. I mean, I would have thought that someone so out in the fringe, MAGA, that to me isn't Republican. Republicans have a certain set of ideals that I don't think Trump really ascribes to. I didn't think we'd go there either, but maybe there's room for the pendulum to swing all the way to progressive.
Well, look at it. I look at it a different way. This is how I would look at AOC, not necessarily as a candidate for president, but as someone that's going to push the Democratic Party to be more progressive. She's going to demand that the Democratic Party take up the issues. As we talked about yesterday, this whole third party thing. I don't believe a third party can ever win because the two-party systems will always adopt the issues that the voters want. AOC can be possibly the leader of the Democratic Party, not the nominee for president, but someone like a Chuck Schumer, right? Like someone that's going to be like, no, these are the issues that the Democratic Party needs to take up. And if you don't, I'm going to pull the votes. Right? That's what we need. We need someone to bring these issues. Bernie Sanders did if he wanted to be president. I don't think AOC, at least at this point in time, is anywhere close to being a 2028 candidate for the Democratic Party for president. What I do think, though, is she will push the Democratic Party progressive, which I do believe the Democratic Party needs to do. They need an answer to MAGA. They need an answer to the actual problems this country is facing. Donald Trump is blowing up everything with a concept of a plan where there is no plan. I mean, he is saying we don't need, for instance, lumber from Canada. Where are you getting our lumber from? Are these trees just growing and being replaced like that? Where are these steel manufacturing companies? Are they just popping up? No, there's no plan to replace any of these things right now. He's just blowing up, walking away, and we're supposed to be picking up the pieces instantly, and that's not how it works. So I think that AOC and Bernie Sanders and that part of the Democratic Party, that's what their mission should be as we head into 2026 and 2028.
We're seeing, in addition to these rallies like Bernie and AOC put on, we're seeing these very emotional town halls happen across America. And both sides, you'll see people speaking out against Republican lawmakers at these, and you'll see at the Democrats' town halls, angry crowds. There was one yesterday where people were telling the lawmaker, you need to be less polite. Democrats need to be less polite. People are angry across the country.
Yes.
It's supposed to be Democrats' new strategy that there's so much anger at the Republican Party, who's been told not to hold town halls anymore.
Right. They're chickens.
That Democrats will then hold the town halls in Republican districts to hear from their constituents, to say, we're not scared of hearing what you think.
Right.
We're going to hold the town halls. We're going to let the communication flow. But it doesn't seem to matter who holds the town hall. It seems like an outlet. People want the outlet to come speak and tell whoever will listen they're upset.
Well, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. You wanted the job. I don't care if it's a red area and it's mostly red and a ton of Democrats come out and yell at you. That's the job. You need to explain it. Now, I was, I don't know if you had put it, there was one Republican who had a town hall and he kept saying, it's like, if you're going to ask me a question, let me answer. Let's show these young people, how civics work, how the system is supposed to work. I understand that you're upset, but let me answer. And not that they're listening to me, but if I had a message to a lot of these, if they're just Democrats, but I believe it is a mix, that are going to these town halls, not necessarily take it down a notch, but make them answer. Like there's a time for yelling and raising your voice. Make them answer. Don't just keep yelling, liar, this, that. There has to be a point where it's like, okay, why shouldn't Elon Musk testify before Congress? And then let them answer. You have to give these people enough rope, right? Like in our Constitution, Congress controls the purse strings. Explain to me why Donald Trump and Elon Musk should be allowed to do what they're doing. Explain it to me how you see it. And don't let them get away with just saying, we want to make things more efficient. Do you think it's efficient to fire thousands of people and then rehire them back with back pay? Is that efficient in your eyes? Make them stand on it, quote them in papers, and then mail it to them so they can see how asinine they sound. You know what I mean? Like there's times for yelling, there's times for listening, and there's times to owning up for where you stand. And these town halls, I mean, they need to be used in that way.
I think so. I think, you've seen people protest. Just a couple days ago, I was driving by and there were two protesters standing in front of Whole Foods holding signs that said, "Free speech is important." Great. But
Yes.
it's these town halls that I think right now, for people that want to do something, seem to be the best outlet. That
Mhm.
and calling your representative, and we've seen
Right.
5 calls that, they'll give you the script to
Mhm.
use, but it's this feeling like you need to do something as you see the ship sinking.
Yeah. Well, that's people can't give up. Like I mentioned, you can't
Mhm.
have apathy in this moment. We often talk, right, about protecting your mental health and taking time, and I do think that that's important too. But you can't. They're banking on people being exhausted, right? They're
Mhm.
banking on people being like, all right, I made my phone calls. Now I'm just going to go about my life. But the problem is, they're their own worst enemy, and I'm using the Trump administration. Things aren't getting better. Right?
No.
Like they keep firing people. April 2nd supposedly is this like D-Day for apparently another, tariff thing. And we're supposed to see something. There's always this like possible cliff we're going to meet. So we're just always in this, you know, something's about to happen volatile moment in this
Right.
country. And it's been this way since the election.
Yes.
Everybody can't take a collective breath and relax. And so we're all stressed out. So I don't know. The Trump administration also can't take a break. So I don't want to ease up, but I don't think we even can because we've never been allowed to
Mhm.
take a breath since the election.
I wanna bring this up because this is more chaos in our
Hmm.
world, and I know this will be a new conspiracy theory for you.
Okay, let me put my
How's
cap
this?
on. Okay.
Trump trying to start something with
Okay.
Supreme Court Justice John Roberts.
Oh, well,
All right. So the anger that Trump has over judges issuing injunctions that are putting a stop to some of these executive orders
mm-hmm.
then has led, as you know, to calls to impeach judges that go against him.
Right.
And so Justice John Roberts comes out and says, this isn't a smart move. Like, this is
No.
not what we want to do.
Right.
We're not going to be calling for the impeachment of judges. This is our American system. This is
Right.
the way our government works.
Yeah.
Well, Trump is now speaking back. Yeah. He says this. These judges want to assume the powers of the presidency without having to attain 80 million votes.
Oh,
He writes, they want all the advantages with none of the risks. Again, a president has to be allowed to act quickly and decisively about such matters as returning murderers, drug lords, and other types of criminals back to their homeland or to other locations that will allow our country to be safe. He said, it's our goal to make America great again, and such a high aspiration can never be done if radical and highly partisan judges are allowed to stand in the way of justice, capitalized. If Justice Roberts calls him out and the United States Supreme Court do not fix this toxic, unprecedented situation immediately, our country is in very serious trouble. So here's a back and forth. Now, recently, when Trump addressed Congress and the nation, you saw a video of him walking past Roberts, patting him on the back and saying, I won't, thank you so much. I won't
right.
forget it.
That's right.
Right. And so they have a good relationship. It's almost like Trump was thanking him for doing him a favor.
Right.
Right. Like a tit for tat kind of situation. I won't forget it, he said. What does that mean? That means I owe you one.
Maybe. He's
And
saying it was
so,
just for like doing the inauguration or whatever, but yeah, right.
do we believe that this back and forth between Roberts and Trump playing out in the media over the possibility of impeaching justices is for real? Or is this their way of, I don't know, giving some kind of faith to the American people back that justices will stand up against Trump when
I'm
really
hoping.
they're not going to.
I mean, I would hope that it is. But let me just say this. Obviously, do you think that there is a president alive that would love to not have to answer to the courts? Obviously. Obviously. I mean, there is not a president that would be like, I would love it if every single court would just say, yes, president, you could do whatever you want, no questions asked. But that's not how our country works. You do something, somebody doesn't like it, they take you to court, you can appeal it. And if it goes all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And if they say, nope, that's not allowed under our laws, then that's it. That is the system. When he put his hand, not on the Bible, but he took that oath, that's what he said he would uphold. Now, if he did not want to, he should not have run for president. If he didn't like the rules of the Constitution, then don't become president of the United States. That was the promise you made. So if you didn't like it, you shouldn't have become president, because that is how it works. We have, the judicial branch, and that's what they do. So, obviously Donald Trump doesn't want the president or the judges to say, you can't do that. Obviously, duh. I mean, what president does? He can't do things that are illegal. He just can't. So sorry. That's
Or he can.
That's the way it is. I mean, we'll see.
Or he can, and he has complete and total immunity from anything he does while in office.
That is the question. Like, what is the punishment for a president? But honestly, I'm going to say this, even before the immunity thing, okay? Even before the immunity ruling, Kim. And I know Donald Trump is his own ilk, all this sort of stuff, and we've never experienced this sort of thing. It is because of Donald Trump that the question was even asked. I mean, what do we do when a president does something, right, that goes against it? We've never tested it because we've never had to deal with anybody like this, but that's always been the question. And I think that's why it went to the Supreme Court. It's this idea of, okay, well, at what point does the president of the United States, I don't know, get handcuffs put on him? It's
never
nuts. It's
never.
And that is why we have this whole unprecedented time. I'm tired of living in unprecedented times. That's all.
Murphy writes, knowing when to rest is so hard. It was like this during the last Trump administration. Every single day, reacting to the news with no WTF is exhausting. Yeah.
Believe me, I'm figuring out ways to rest, Murphy. Believe me, I'm figuring out ways to rest.
Thank you for the contribution, Murphy. And Luis also writes, so cool to see Nikki on the Mark Thompson show. Love Thursday live shows. Thank you so much. Thank you, Luis, for the contribution. This show is crowdfunded. TheMarkThompsonShow.com is where you will find the Patreon and PayPal information. And thank you for the super chats and super stickers. Really appreciate it. Yeah, happy Friday to you too. That's from Mark Francis 76. Happy Friday. Speaking of Fridays, Nikki Medoro, we've got a big thing that we do here on the Mark Thompson show.
I remember.
You want to stick around for it?
I do. I love Fridays for this.
Yes, it's Friday Fabulous Florida. We do it every Friday where we check in on our brothers and sisters in the South and take a look at what's been happening in their world. It is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
Oh, yes, it is. Definitely our weirdest state. So let's dig into it. We've got 3 stories. And of course, the way Friday Fabulous Florida works is you do have to pick a favorite story.
Oh, right? Okay.
The first story includes this Florida man pointing a gun at a man at a karaoke bar after he got upset about the music.
Oh.
Sometimes, Nikki, the music just, rubs you the wrong way.
Karaoke bars are crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be in the mood. Have you ever gone to the bar and you're like, oh my God, it's a karaoke bar? You got to be in the mood. You have to know. Okay, go ahead.
This man was taken to jail for pulling a gun on a man at a karaoke bar after becoming upset about the music. Happened in Pinellas County. This man was arrested on charges of felony aggravated assault. The bar is called Overtime Sports Bar. Oh, we also have the mugshot. We rate the mugshot from 0 to 10, and you can use your own criteria. I'm going to give him a 6, I think.
Nah, I give it a 4. It's not even. Really? It's not even red eyes. He doesn't even make a funny face. Yeah, maybe a 4. Not even that good.
This is 34-year-old Aaron Jablonski of Harbor. He said The police said Jablonski became upset because the karaoke machine was malfunctioning. After leaving the bar, still upset about the music, Jablonski was confronted outside by a patron who was trying to calm him down. Like, hey, man, not a big deal. These things happen, right?
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
That is when Jablonski allegedly pulled a gun from his waistband, pointed it at the patron, and said, I don't effing care. He then turned away, racked a round out of his gun, and walked off.
Wow.
Victim went back into the bar, alerted authorities. Jablonski later booked into the local county jail. He was out on bond, but he is facing an additional charge for being a felon in possession of a firearm.
Can I bump up my number to 7 just because I like his last name?
Jablonski?
It just sounds better. Yeah, I mean, geez, Louise, he's a little sensitive about his karaoke, I'd say.
You know what? When you want to do karaoke and things aren't working right, the whole night is gone. The whole night, blown up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we've asked this before. Do you like karaoke? I mean, are you a karaoke singer?
I really do.
Do you?
I have to have a couple drinks in me in order for my voice to not waver, but I'll get up there and sing.
There you go. Do you have a favorite song?
My go-to is Crazy, Patsy Cline.
Ooh, look at you. See, yeah, I don't have a song, although I try to sing it if I have more than a few drinks in me, is Total Eclipse of the Heart. Just
that's a good one. Yeah.
I love that song. But and my husband just laughs at me nonstop when I sing it. So there you go.
All right, next on the list, a Florida man arrested for posting sickening threats against President Trump. Fight me naked to the death, he writes. This man is being called disturbed. What? Challenging the president, fight me naked to the death. His name is Kendall Todd. He's 42.
Never been anything like this.
He was busted and charged in St. Lucie County after posting these threats to kill the commander-in-chief on social media. I mean, not so funny, right? When the Secret Service comes a knocking on your door.
No, not at all.
Posted this rambling 80-second clip where he railed against Trump, declared himself the U.S. president. He said, because of Donald Trump, every single person in the world is cursed. He called Donald Trump the Antichrist. He said Donald Trump has personally made business decisions which have hurt so many different reincarnated Jesuses.
Oh,
yeah.
What? I was like, yeah, no, okay.
No, we were going up on the roller coaster and then we went straight down. No. The violent threats were quickly flagged to the Secret Service. And apparently this man just kept escalating his behavior, got the attention of the Secret Service. And yeah, they went to his house. Neighbors say this guy's been acting strangely for some time. I don't know if that's a t-shirt or a hospital gown that he's wearing in the back of the
t-shirt
squad car there.
It kind of surprises me that the secret, I mean, it must have been really bad on the video. I can't imagine he's the only one that's gone on social media and said terrible things about the president. I mean, so for the Secret Service to actually check out this guy, it must have been really bad, really long. And there had to have been warnings like, stop. He's like, no.
Maybe
but the Jesus thing, I'm like, this guy's out of
attention.
You know?
What did you say? You kind of cut out there.
What?
I think the naked part might have got their attention. I mean,
the naked part,
the naked part.
He didn't want to just fight Trump. He wanted to fight Trump naked somehow. I don't know.
Well, they do that in Florida. They do a lot of nudity, so it seems to make sense.
That. Okay,
that's how. Yeah, that's a big. People arrested naked in Florida all the time.
Well.
All right, last on the list. This Florida woman admitted to vandalizing her ex's vehicle. Nikki, sometimes you get a little angry. You want to lash out. Problem is she got the wrong car.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
18 years old. Her name is Evelina.
I'm bad. I'm sorry.
She faces charges of criminal mischief and DUI. She was arrested after mistakenly vandalizing a vehicle that she thought belonged to her ex-boyfriend.
Oh, no.
Nope.
It was wrong.
No,
it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Deputies responded to a vandalism call in Deltona about this young woman spray painting a vehicle. They arrived and they found this woman, 18, along with a 16-year-old girl, Both of them, I guess, had yellow spray paint on their sweatpants, and they were covered in this stuff, right?
Does that say poo on the window?
Yeah, it does. Well, she had a 16-year-old with her, so you know that.
It's all poo.
But apparently, Evelina
apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
When they were questioned, Evelina apparently admitting she was upset with her ex-boyfriend and decided to spray paint and throw eggs at what she thought was his vehicle. Unfortunately, the police say the vehicle in question belonged to a neighbor, not her ex-boyfriend.
No.
She said her ex-boyfriend owes her about $700, and that's why she was moved to create this act of vengeance upon his vehicle.
That's it? $700? That's just owing money. That's it.
Yeah,
I
there's
thought it was
probably
like cheating or something
there.
like that. I'm just $700. Like, come on, lady, take him to small claims court. I mean, geez, there's like other things you could do. You know,
the cars. I think that's more than $700 worth of damage.
Yeah.
The car's actual owner had just parked across the street, leading to apparently this misunderstanding. Damage to the car reportedly tallying up to an estimated $5,000. Deputies also explaining they caught this woman driving with 2 open containers of Four Loko. I don't know what that is. Four Loko.
Is that beer or is that beer and booze? It's something like that. Yeah.
It's a crazy amount of ABV in one can.
It's something
high.
like that. Yeah. It's crazy.
And it's also like very 2010s of them. So Florida's still in the past.
It's not like Mad Dog 2020, which is like more 1990s, but it's okay. Yeah. Okay.
So Evelina was arrested and now faces charges of criminal mischief, contributing to the delinquency of a minor because of her 16-year-old sidekick, possession of alcohol under the age of 21 because Evelina is only 18, and DUI, capping off the list of charges. The 16-year-old in question also found in possession of marijuana, over 20 grams. So police apparently finding drugs in her bag, as well as an empty Crown Royale bottle and a can of yellow spray paint. Case closed.
I think they hit bingo
like
a couple. Yeah, they hit bingo, like criminal bingo, a couple claims.
Ding, ding. All right. Well, okay.
And so let me recap it for you. We have the Florida man pointing a gun at a man at a karaoke bar after he got upset about the music malfunction. We have the Florida man arrested for posting threats against Trump, including "fight me naked to the death." Not to mention all the Jesuses. And then lastly, we have the Florida woman vandalizing the wrong car.
Okay, so now voting means what's the most Florida or just the one that I like the best?
Both. You can use any criteria you want.
Okay.
Do
I go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Nikki.
Okay, I think I'm going to choose. I think I'm going to choose the karaoke one. I like the karaoke one. Yeah, I'm going to choose the karaoke one.
Albert, your vote, sir.
The chat likes the wrong car vandalism. I like the nude fight. Just challenging someone fighting naked to the death.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Although
strong.
I just don't want to see it. I think that's why I didn't like it. The visual that happened in my mind, Albert, I was just like, no, can't have it. No.
I'm going with vandalizing the wrong car.
Okay, Kim went with the crew. All right.
Yeah, very strong offerings today in Friday Fabulous Florida, I have to admit. And that is Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Nikki Medoro, you can be found on the Nikki Medoro Show. It is on YouTube. So search for it. Click the subscribe button. Click the little bell. It will notify you every Thursday at 5 o'clock when Nikki and I go live on that show as well. The Nikki Medoro Show. Please subscribe. Thank you for being here. You're super awesome.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's so much fun. And I will see you next Thursday with my cocktail in hand. So
we'll do it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Nikki. Time to do a little bit of news here on the Mark Thompson Show. Coming up, Jim Avila, Michael Shure will talk politics, and Michael Snyder will be here as well to talk streaming and movies of the week. That will happen in the 12 o'clock hour. And of course, we'll do a little update coming up here on the second hour of Mark's Madness. But while we can fit it in, let's do a little bit of news here on the Mark Thompson Show. On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by the incredibly kind and wonderful people at Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. The first story on the docket, President Trump says America will be liberated on April 2nd. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump said that is the day that his tariffs against Canada, Mexico, and China will go into effect. And we've seen this before, right? They'll go into effect. No, wait, we had some negotiations. We're going to put that on hold. Now he says April 2nd is the day. The day the tariffs go into effect. Trump said Americans will see an economic boom after the tariffs. He said his tariff threats have already prompted several companies to move their production plants to the United States. As we mentioned earlier, London's Heathrow Airport is resuming some flights today after a fire that forced it to shut down yesterday. In a statement, officials said the first flights will be repatriation flights for those who were diverted to other airports in Europe. Travel disruptions at Heathrow could still last for days. More than 1,300 flights and 200,000 passengers are expected to be impacted by this. And again, officials say sabotage is not suspected, but they have not ruled out foul play. That airport is one of the world's busiest. There is a hearing set for today over immigration deportation flights ordered by President Trump. Yesterday, a federal district judge gave the government yet another day to provide information on the flights of alleged members of a Venezuelan gang. Over the weekend, the judge blocked the flights arranged under the Alien Enemies Act and ordered any in the air to be turned around. 3 of those flights still landed in El Salvador. Postal workers are expressing concerns about their agency possibly being taken over by the Commerce Department. They spoke out against the potential change during demonstrations in a number of cities yesterday. Postmaster General Louis DeJoy said last week he wants to cut thousands of jobs and billions of dollars from the Postal Service budget. Opponents believe those reductions would negatively impact customers and would damage the economy. Boeing is being awarded the contract for the next U.S. high-tech fighter jet. Speaking from the Oval Office today, President Trump said the new F-47 will be the best fighter jet ever made. Boeing, which has seen some major setbacks, recently beat out Lockheed Martin for that contract. Anybody concerned that's what we're getting, a Boeing jet? I don't know. Yeah. Not sure if that's what we need, but that's what we're getting anyway. So that's the way it goes. Also, in other news, there is a Southern California woman facing charges for allegedly stabbing her 11-year-old son to death at a hotel. Authorities say Saritha Ramajaru called police this week and said she had killed her son at a hotel in Santa Ana. Responding officers found that child deceased. Police say the mother and son had been staying at a hotel on and off for weeks. They don't know what the motive is for that killing. Just a horrible story. In the Bay Area, San Leandro, a city councilwoman says she was assaulted by a Central California lawmaker during a conference in Florida. During San Leandro's city council meeting this week, Vice Mayor Jua Bowen went on the record and said she was physically violated by Fowler City Councilman Daniel Parra while both attended a conference in Tampa, Florida in November. Bowen says she filed a police report with Tampa police and Parra is now facing an assault charge. She didn't go into further detail on that, but attorneys for Parra say he is innocent of the charge and he is due in court later this month. Speed cameras are now a reality on San Francisco city streets. Nearly 36 cameras set up around the city. Many of them were turned on Thursday, and once they are all live, drivers are being given a 2-month grace period, but any citations given for speeding after that will hit them pretty hard in the wallet. City officials say the cameras are much needed to get drivers to slow down on certain streets in San Francisco, as well as intersections that are heavily populated by pedestrians. So people need to slow it down. Google claims an experiment which it removed news search results from 1% of European users for 2.5 months shows it did not negatively impact its ad business. The experiment was the result of European copyright laws that require Google to pay news publishers for using snippets of their content. Now, Google claims it's not worth it, and they plan to use the results of this experiment as leverage in negotiations with European news publishers. So they're not going to pay up. No, not when they can get away with not paying up. Here's some great news for people that suffer from seasonal allergies. Forecasters are warning the pollen counts this year will be much higher across most of the United States. I know. A senior meteorologist at AccuWeather said yesterday pollen counts will exceed historical averages in 39 states as the warmer weather approaches. The experts say those who suffer from allergies should prepare for an intense allergy season that could linger into the autumn.
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Not what we want to hear. A very large, destructive water rodent has invaded Central California. The nutria, it's like a giant rat, is native to South America, but the semi-aquatic animal that looks like a cross between a rat and a beaver has made its way to Fresno County now. Officials with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife say the 20-pound creature can consume up to 50 pounds of plants per day above and below the ground, destroying plants, crops, and fragile ecosystems. The nutria, pictured here, has been seen or captured in San Joaquin, Mariposa, Merced, and North Valley counties as well. The California Department of Water saying they are edible with a taste compared to dark turkey meat or rabbit, so cooking them is part of the eradication strategy. Okay, I'm not eating a nutria. No, don't eat the nutria, but apparently that is what they're saying. They're trying to get rid of these things by having you eat them. I don't know what's next. No, thank you. I don't think that's what we want. In other news, and lastly, a federal judge in Chicago is sentencing a former employee at Augusta National Golf Club for stealing and selling Masters golf tournament merchandise. What? Richard Glebensky pleading guilty last year to a federal charge of transporting and transferring stolen goods across state lines. The defendant admitting to stealing Masters shirts, hats, and other goods. Glebensky also taking green jackets awarded to golf legends Arnold Palmer, Gene, I'll get the name wrong, Sarzin, and Ben Hogan. The Georgia man sentenced to a year in federal prison was ordered to pay more than $3 million in restitution to Augusta National. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Not sure if they're still selling futures, but boy, is it worth a call. 925-699-4576, or you can email Rich at tenutavineyard.com. Rich at tenutavineyard.com. They offer a great Mark Thompson Show exclusive discount, and all you have to do when you either call or email is say or write, smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Boom, 10% comes off your total. So that is the Tenuta Vineyard discount. They may even give you more of a discount if you're ordering cases. I can tell you the Mark Thompson Why Are You Yelling Red is among my favorite varietals that they have. They've also have the Mark Thompson, hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio, as well as many other varietals to choose from. They have so many options. Check out the website. It's tenutawinery.com. The email is rich at tenutavineyard.com, just to put that note out there. And last month, you were able to order futures, which is wine still in the barrel, at a discount. So it's worth calling and seeing if that deal is still available. Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. They are also available for private parties, and they have great rooms available, a venue available for parties and events and things like that. And it's always worth a trip out there. Really, really nice people. Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
I misspoke.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Why are you yelling?
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
There's never been anything like this.
We've never seen anything like it before.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
Have you ever seen anything like this? There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created.
God bless America. The end.
Someone did this to spoil our Christmas.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Sayonara, sucker!
You know what, pal? You created havoc and chaos.
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong? Huh?
Who is having that conversation?
Mark's Madness.
We're in a red hot contest, everyone. Hour for either going back to Texas
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
or Casey Kasem.
This is Casey Kasem in Hollywood.
Again, you'll vote right now for either
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
or Casey Kasem.
This is Casey Kasem in
You
Hollywood.
vote in the posts section of our YouTube channel. Mark's Madness continues. Only one can win. Good luck!
The Mark Thompson Show.
How did we do last hour, Albert? Which one won?
Let me double check on that. But you can vote while I look that up. You can vote in your subscription box or on our YouTube page, markthompsonshow.com. As I'm pulling it up, here are the posts. Pretty 50-50. Close. Nothing in our history went against Coffee Down, and it has a slight lead.
Okay.
Has a slight lead here, and going back to Texas has a very narrow lead too.
Going back to Texas is strong. Put that coffee down is pretty good. And
There
how
you
long does the voting stay open, or is it already closed for last hour?
Oh, it stays open. It stays open
Okay.
until about midnight. Then I'll lock in the winner.
All right, Mark's Madness underway. The voting is open and you can participate. Even if you didn't fill out a bracket, you can still participate in the voting and have fun with us along the way. I would love to now turn to Jim Avila. I'm so delighted that he's back on the show. And of course, you know Jim Avila from the Mark Thompson Show. If not, you may remember him as a senior White House correspondent for ABC News. He is the king of news, and he is on the show with me today. It is Jim Avila, everyone.
Morning, Kim. How are you?
I'm
Always
good.
a
How you
pleasure to be
feeling,
with you.
sir? Yeah.
I'm feeling good.
Good. You're looking good outside with a palm tree in the background. Lovely.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in San Diego.
We may have Michael Shure join us as well. I sent him a link, so we'll see if he pops in. But I wanted to start our conversation with something that was said in the Oval Office this morning. Trump and Pete Hegseth gather in the Oval, and they have a lot to say on a variety of topics. Among them, we're still on the Canada thing. Trump once again saying Canada would make a great 51st American state. From the Oval Office this morning, Trump said the United States sends a lot of aid to Canada and their trade negotiators are tough. He said Canada would make a beautiful state and a great landmass addition to the United States. He called the boundary between the countries an artificial line. Is it? I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's almost like a joke, but he's not joking, Jim Avila.
Yeah, I think it's a distraction. I who knows with Trump, but it's one of those things where he really ought to focus on all the damage he's doing in the United States before he works on killing Canada. But it's Canada has no interest in becoming part of the United States.
No.
And if if he wants to take it over physically or by military, that's a waste of men and women and troops and all kind. It's just silly, it makes me, I don't even I kind of dismiss it without even much thought, to tell you the truth, because it's not going to happen. Canada is not going to want to become part of this country. They were perfectly happy being an ally, and Trump's trying to ruin that as well.
What's scary to me, though, Jim, and let's welcome Michael Shure to the conversation as well. Hi, Michael Shure. Welcome to the
How are you?
I got my Friday guys.
Jim outside with his
I know.
Montreal, is that a Montreal Canadiens cap? I can't see through the glare, but
Chicago Cubs.
Oh, it's a Chicago Cubs. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I got hopeful.
As I was saying, Jim, what scares me though is that you have Trump cozying up to Vladimir Putin, who is invading and taking land from another country. And so maybe that indicates that this is more true than just a distraction, and that Trump is thinking along the Putin lines where, hey, I'd like to have the country next to me too.
Well, I may be thinking that, but number one, I don't think the population of the United States, and maybe I'll be wrong again about the people here in this country, but the people here in this country aren't going to stand for some kind of incursion into Canada. That's a bridge too far, I think. And he, I just think he tries to distract us, the people in this country, with these ridiculous things that, like that in Greenland. Greenland is maybe a little bit better, a little bit more of a chance, but, they're trying to distract us from what the real problems are. And the fact that he's not addressing the real problems, the fact that he hasn't addressed the economy, and the economy is getting worse. The fact that he's deporting innocent people into a foreign country. Those are real issues. The Canadian issue is not something that I think is real, even though he does idolize, as you say, Putin. Putin has a system over there that doesn't allow any dissent. And while Trump would love that, he doesn't have that yet. And Americans would revolt if we actually attacked Canada.
Michael Shure?
There's a consistency to, Donald Trump, when it comes to issues that affect the American people, he only cares about the distracting ones. He only cares about, the open borders, the things that rile people up. There's another part of his personality. I mean, he was a guy from Queens who wanted to be in Manhattan. So in essence, he tried to conquer Manhattan by putting his name on skyscrapers all over town. He was always treated as an outsider. Today in the international community, when it comes to diplomacy, still treated as an outsider. You saw him barge. I mean, these are little things, and a photo op doesn't define a man or a president or a presidency. But when I think it was either a G7 or an E20, where he just sort of pushed his way in front. This is what he wants. And in the modern time, there are very few people. I mean, I think in some, sub-Saharan African countries, where land conquering is still in vogue, right? And then there's Vladimir Putin doing it. But in the model of authoritarianism that he has ascribed himself to, that's part of it, right? So that's part of the Second World War, going in and conquering other countries and building, going in as the Soviet Union, seeing those things happen. And that's what Donald Trump's doing. But there's very little land available. So there's a little bit to the north. There's a ton of it. There's Greenland. There's the Panama Canal. And I'm forgetting one that he said would be a great. Oh, Gaza. I mean, Gaza is a perfect example of
sure.
that. So,
the Mediterranean of the Middle East, Michael Shure.
Right. And even putting the Gulf of America, conquering the Gulf of Mexico. So in his persona, in his personality, which we don't, we do talk about, but we don't apply it to every move that he does. There's an understory here, a backstory. And that backstory is that he just wants to be bigger. He wants to be remembered. He wants to be, an assassin more than he wants to be president. He wants to be remembered in that way, in many ways. So I just think that it's consistent more than it's shocking. And no, we're not going to invade, nor will we conquer Canada.
You just mentioned something, which is that Trump doesn't have the ability right now to squash all dissent like Vladimir Putin does, which one of you just said that. And one of the things that pops out to me is his call to impeach justices that go against him in an effort trying to squash any dissent. There are multiple ways in which he's trying to do this, or which the Republicans are coming up with plans to get judges to stop these rulings. One of them, a new bill from Darrell Issa in California, would limit federal judges' ability to issue far-reaching injunctions. Apparently, that bill headed to the floor in early April, and Trump is backing it. It needs 60 votes to pass, and that means some Democrats would have to cross over. There are also some Republicans talking about cutting off federal funding for the federal district court in Washington and other lower courts as well, and that could come up in the 2026 spending fight. Other ways that they're trying to squash dissent, pushing forward with the impeachment of these judges. There are already resolutions to impeach James Boasberg, who went against Trump on the Venezuelan flight ruling. So is that what we're going to see next, to kind of hobble the courts and justices' abilities to make any kinds of decisions that would go against the president, Michael?
Yeah, I think that's the next chapter, right, is what happens with the judiciary. And Darrell Issa is Darrell Issa fits the Trump model to a certain degree. He's the wealthiest member of the House, or if he's not the wealthiest still, I think, maybe Kevin Horn is, if he's Kevin Hearn, if he's still in the House. I believe he is. Yeah, Oklahoma's Kevin Hearn. But what Darrell Issa did is he went to another district when he lost when he was redistricted out. He went to another district, conquered that district in a way. There's a consistency, the type of the people that are doing this. I think, though, when it comes to the judiciary, this is going to be the constitutional test. It will be a political test as well, meaning that if they defy the judiciary in our three branches of government, then they're going to then you're going to have to see Republicans, people who have been steadfast in supporting the Constitution, who love this Supreme Court and its makeup. They've tried to build this judiciary in their favor. If this judiciary goes against Donald Trump for overreach, they're going to be hard pressed to do what is right, and they've failed when given that opportunity on other scores. But if it's a constitutional crisis, which I think this flirts with, then you're going to have to see some of them step up and go against that wave of defying the judiciary, impeaching judges. That's something that is, talked about and done, but it's not, Judge Boasberg, right, has given Donald Trump great rulings in the past, rulings that have favored him. Just because you disagree with a ruling does not make that ruling wrong, and we rely on that. So there's something fundamental, and I don't have faith that all these Republicans are going to wake up and say, and conservatives, and say, oh, no, this is a bridge too far. They haven't done it, and there have been many bridges with many reaches since we've known who Donald Trump was. And I don't have great confidence, but I think that's something that we need to rely on. And I think that's where the rhetoric has to go toward pushing these people. And it has to come from Republicans who are elected, who are, brave enough to do that. Counting on bravery is always a fatal mistake.
I think we have Jim Avila back now. So if we can bring him back into the shot. I don't know if he had anything to say about this effort to impeach justices and squash dissent against the Trump administration and these executive orders from the judicial branch.
Well, it's an abuse of power. It's what I said last week about what the major issue is with Donald Trump that may have some resonance among Democrats and among the voting public in general, is his attempt to go beyond what the powers of the presidency are defined as in the Constitution. He's trying to do that with the judiciary. He's also trying to do that with the media and with the legal system. He's now intimidated big law firms in Washington, D.C. to make these settlements, and also major media companies to make these settlements with him, which is a shame and which is an embarrassment, and they ought to be ashamed for doing that. So, this is his effort to become a king. It's real. That part is real. Taking over Canada is not real. He wants to have nobody object to him, nobody resist, and he's trying his best to do that against the media, the judiciary, the legal system in general. He's already done that at the Department of Justice, which used to be semi-independent of the president, and there was very little conversation between the president and the attorney general about these things. Biden kept arm's length from his people at the Justice Department, and Trump has done the exact opposite. This is the issue, I believe, that resonates with the public. If he continues to try to be a king, he's going to be resisted.
You mentioned the law firms that Trump is going after, and I saw this story last night. Trump is now rescinding an executive order after a law firm that he was attacking has agreed to provide him $40 million in free services, to the government, right?
Yeah.
It's this law firm, the attorneys at Paul Weiss, they're giving $40 million in free legal services to support the Trump administration goals. And so Trump rescinds this executive order targeting this, what he called a Democratic-leaning law firm, because they're giving him freebies. That should be illegal. How does that work?
It should be. I mean, and Bradley Karp is the chairman of Paul Weiss Rifkin, and he's one of the big bundlers, the big bundlers in the Democratic Party. He's been there for Hillary Clinton, for Joe Biden, for Cory Booker, people in the tri-state area, Chuck Schumer, I think, and for him to just about face to cave to the Trump demands tells you the power and the reach that is happening right now, and how if even somebody who is clearly a Democrat, who is overtly a Democrat, is going down to the White House to make a deal with the president, and to provide, and now some of the services he's providing are for charities, but nonetheless it's still making a deal with the devil as far as somebody like Brad Karp is concerned, and that's going to be happening in lots of different circles. And this is the breakdown. This is the breakdown of resistance to the president, which has to scare people, and it's why people, Democrats in particular, are so dissatisfied with Democrats in Congress. Democrats in Congress are less popular with Democrats now than they have been at any time that I can remember. And so that is informed by the fact that they are not getting resistance from the places or successful resistance from the places that they rely on. And that would be Congress. That would be, the judiciary in some circles. That would even be some of the media, which has been marginalized by this administration. Mm-hmm. So the frustration that rank and file Democrats are feeling right now. Now, I'm pretty calm about political emergencies. I don't like to overreact to them. I think the Democrats are very close to winning in lots of places as well. They winning back some of the white union men who left them would have changed this election. It's not easy to do, but it's certainly a very clear task that they can go after. And I'm not afraid about minority voters sticking with the Republican Party. I'm much more afraid of people who left the Democratic Party who are now going along with Republicans and didn't vote for Democrats. And if you have unpopular Democrats, that's a really important poll. So Democrats have to work on their base right now, which is not a place they thought they'd have to be, but it's very difficult to fight back against this behemoth.
But I think before we leave the discussion about the legal issues that have to do with these big law firms, remember what he was doing. When you said this should be illegal, Kim, what should be illegal is what Trump was threatening to do, which was not even to allow them Sorry about the airplane.
It's okay. You can't help it. Boy, they're coming right over you.
You know, during Jim's hiatus, we never had these problems. Jim was out for a while, and everything was smooth. No planes, no drops, no going to one pretty background instead of another pretty background. But yeah, as you were.
Well, I think the big issue with them is what he was doing to threaten them. He was not allowing. He put an order out that they would not be allowed to go in federal buildings. They would not be able to go to courts, federal courts. So, you know, that's a pretty strong and illegal way of doing things, and would mean out of business for these lawyers who practice in these places. So that's the part that should be illegal. And you know, while you have sympathy for these law firms, I really do feel it's an embarrassment and shameful that they have capitulated to Trump. As far as the Democrats are concerned, which Michael was just beginning to talk about, I do too think it's way too early to panic. I think that there is always, after a big loss, and even though it wasn't a huge loss, it wasn't a huge mandate, and it was not a slap in the face to all Democrats, it was a learning. We should learn from that. Mm-hmm. And what should be learned from that is what they are now kind of regrouping. We're seeing AOC and Bernie Sanders out in the campaign trail with these huge rallies against oligarchy and against exactly what I've been talking about, which is the real issue, that who's controlling this country now, and that's Donald Trump, who wants to be a king, and his buddies. Though that's happening. The middle is trying to say to the rest of the Democrats, the moderates are saying, well, we went too far progressive, and that's going to work itself out over the next few months before we get to the midterms. I don't think it's time to panic. There has to be some evaluation there. I think guys like Chris Murphy should come forward. The senator from Connecticut, isn't that right, Michael? Connecticut?
Yeah, Connecticut.
Is that those folks, those moderates? You know, I saw him on the Daily Show, and with Jon Stewart, and he was just remarkable. Well, why isn't he head of the Democrat instead of Chuck Schumer? Those things have to work itself out. I think he may emerge as the leader. He's one of the ones who could emerge as a leader. So
I would add Brian Schatz of Hawaii, who is more focused on it than Senator Murphy. From what my sources told me on the Senate side, is that Schatz is really positioning himself for that.
Well, you know, anybody who can replace Schumer is on my list of people who should replace Schumer.
Let's talk about that, because Schumer, of course, decided that he was going to vote against a government shutdown. And some would say it was kind of capitulating to Trump, giving Trump whatever he wanted, and not digging his heels in and being part of a resistance. Do you think that Schumer should have resisted, or do you think a government shutdown would play right into Trump's hands? They don't want to spend money anyway. I don't know what's right here. We're worried about federal workers. That would make it worse for federal workers, who would then, go without pay and whatever else at the same time that they're worried about losing their jobs. What's the right move for Schumer to make in this case?
It's a tough call. He clearly made the wrong one, though, because the way that the party sees him now, certainly the right move would not have been to say that you were going to filibuster against it and then to turn and change your mind so quickly. I think consistency for Schumer would have been a lot better, because it would have allowed other Democratic senators to speak in favor of or against what the leader was doing. So I think in the political calculations that were made, it was very sloppy. And I think that's the less talked about, the undercard of what we're talking about with Chuck Schumer now is that abrupt change. I should point out too that Brian Schatz voted with Schumer, which a lot of people saw as a signal that he wants to be the leader. So when you are the leader, you have to straddle a different fence very often than you do when you're just a rank and file senator. But again, I'm not excusing Schumer. I think it was a bad move. But members of Congress who I've spoken to, members of the House who voted to shut down the government, say they understand what Chuck Schumer, why he's doing what he's doing, because shutting it down in some of their districts, they've said to me, is would be terrible for their federal workers, for their national park workers, for VA, all the things that we always know every time this sort of thing happens. But I think that it's not just about that vote. And what Jim was saying is true. They need a change anyway. You don't need a New Yorker, an aging New Yorker, peering over his reading glasses at a lectern to be your leader now. You need some energy, and you need different energy. But again, I also agree with Jim that a lot of people are panicked, and I am, I get that. But in politics, things happen slowly. And so if it were to happen quick, and let's say tomorrow Schumer steps down and Brian Schatz or Chuck Schumer or Sheldon Whitehouse is the leader of the Senate minority, they will have a honeymoon, and then it will be the timing of politics ebbs and flows consistently all the time, that they will be unpopular and there will be problems and they will seem weak. So panicking it's good to be talking about it, but I don't think that on that side of things, and Jim may disagree, but I don't think panicking is the right motivation at the moment. And then when we get to a judicial crisis, then I will say it's time.
Mm-hmm. I said that first. What are you talking about? Yes.
Well, you did. No, but I'm just saying that on the side of the leadership in the Senate. Yeah, but I didn't know if you were here, if you dropped out. You'd said that. So.
I think that the issue with Schumer, look, I think he did the right thing in backing and not allowing the government to shut down. I don't think we should ever shut down the government. It hurts too many Americans, too many people outside of Washington, D.C. That I think is the right decision. Like Michael, I believe that he is past his time. His expiration date is over. He is too old school, not a dynamic leader. And what the Democrats need is a dynamic leader right now, and it's not Chuck Schumer. I think Chris Murphy's much better than the guy from Hawaii in that he has a more national profile. Some people actually, most people don't know any of these people, to tell you the truth.
Right.
But Murphy is up on the shows more often, and is. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, Jim, but Murphy also has different aspirations, and he may have presidential aspirations. And the majority leader or minority leader spot is never a stepping off point, a jumping off point for that. But we don't know that either.
Yeah.
We had this speech from the Oval Office today, in which something was said that I find incredibly outrageous. Trump said the January 6th rioters were nothing like these terrorist Tesla vandals. He said, you didn't have anything like that on January 6th. Of course, he's talking about people damaging Teslas. There were shots fired in a Tesla dealership, which injured no one. Not that it's good, but no one was hurt. That's the fact of the matter. There have been charging stations set ablaze. No, firebombing is never a good idea, but different than January 6th, where people actually did die, right? So here's what he had to say. You didn't have that January 6th. I can tell you, you didn't have anything like that. He said a police officer was among those who he didn't say that. I will say a police officer was among those who died either during the riot or directly afterward. And then Trump issues this mass pardon for all the J6ers. But this is what he said. He says that people who attack Teslas should be sent to prison in El Salvador, where they recently took these 250 migrants. He said, I view these people as terrorists, just like the others. When I looked at these showrooms burning, those cars, not one or two, like 7, 8, 10 burning, exploding all over the place. These, he says, are terrorists. Michael, sure. Or Jim Avila, go ahead.
Give it to Jim.
Yeah. Well, he's been trying to minimize January 6th since he left office. You can't minimize because it's on tape. It's on. You can watch it. You can watch it, and you can see the damage that was done to the Capitol, the attacks on the policemen, the fact that they had a policeman trapped between a door where he was choking. these are supposedly the law and order people. He's totally wrong. Now, is it wrong to firebomb a Tesla dealership? Yeah. All you got to do is not buy one. Okay, that's all you got to do. There's no reason to attack with violence, any kind of with guns or firebombs. That's just wrong. And they should be arrested. They shouldn't be sent to El Salvador, but they should be arrested and prosecuted for vandalism. And just like and not pardoned. Unfortunately, like the idiots at the Capitol are all pardoned. That shouldn't happen, and it shouldn't happen with these guys.
Yeah, I think a little resistance, a little nonviolent resistance is okay in the face of what people are feeling right now, and this kind of takeover of the government. But I think that you have to be consistent about it. I think back to what Republicans were saying in the wake of the riots after the George Floyd murder. Was they were saying that in fact what the people responding to it were doing was worse than what happened to Floyd. Well, they wouldn't be out burning down a part of Minneapolis were it not for what the police had done, were it not for the cumulative effects of what the police had done. Well, again, you cannot minimize the reaction, but you cannot also lose sight of what happened before. And that's the same thing with January 6th. I mean, it was a real affront to our whole government. And then it was an affront to what seemed like justice to have them all pardoned. So to equate, doing what they did to Teslas, and I'm not defending it. They broke the law, and they should get prosecuted for what they did. But it's incomparable.
No, completely incomparable. I'm running out of time with you guys. I will say, as you talk about dissent, AOC says the Democrats need to elect brawlers who fight to defeat the GOP. Do we have a brawler? Is that what we need? People who are going to get down and dirty? I was reading at a town hall event by a Democratic congressman that a member of the audience stood up and said, "You guys are being too polite. You need to not be polite. This is dirty politics, and you need to play it as such." And then today, AOC with the "we need to elect brawlers who fight" comment. Do we need to get people in office who are willing to get their hands dirty? Is that American politics? Because maybe that happened before, but it was kind of done below the behind closed doors, and now the dirty is out in the open.
Well, I think tough leaders brawl without it having the feel of it being brawling, right? I think when you look at the leadership on both sides of the aisle in both houses, whether it be John Thune or Hakeem Jeffries, or Chuck Schumer, or in the House, Mike Johnson, you see these sort of they're fairly genteel people who get those positions, and those are the public faces. But they can also be sneaky and vicious in the cases of Pelosi and McConnell. So that could be construed as brawling. I do think that what Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is saying is that we need to have sort of a top-down resistance to what is going on, and that takes brawling rhetoric, that takes consistency, that takes not letting everything go by us, and that also means, in her parlance, I think challenging some of as she did when she ran for office the first time, challenging some of these people who've been in office for too long. But you also don't want to become a sideshow, and I think that Democrats were labeled that. But I think it's a question of issues that they've been saddled with much more so than it is their fight and whether or not they're polite. That's my personal take.
So we already kind of mentioned the fight against judges, but I just saw this story pop up and I wanted to mention it in case people haven't seen this headline yet. We saw Elon Musk do this in the presidential election, offering money for people to get on board with the way he wanted them to vote. Now his America PAC is offering $100 to each eligible Wisconsin voter who signs a petition against activist judges. I don't think is it legal to pay people to sign a petition? Can you do that?
He did it during the presidential election.
He sure did. Mm-hmm.
So, and there was no legality involved. So I don't think it's illegal. I think that most of the people who will sign up are either doing it for the money or doing it because they're MAGA already. I don't think it has much effect, to tell you the truth. You know, the biggest problem that Elon Musk has is access. The fact that he was able to go to the Pentagon this morning, and although Trump says he didn't look at the Chinese war plans, that he was able to go there and look through their computers, and his people are looking through the computers. That's the, and what they're doing at the Social Security Department is those are the things that are scary. Well, I don't care about his who he backs in the election, but what he's doing. Hopefully, I haven't lost you.
No,
what
I hear
he's
you.
doing in the Social Security with by going in and getting people's private information. He has your credit report now. That's crazy.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that would argue that Donald Trump seeing the Chinese war plans is more dangerous than Musk.
They'll just end up in Trump's bathroom. So, that's how that works. Come on.
No,
Vilma
the Democrats
writes,
need to just call out the lies and do things to appeal. I mean, it's a strategy. They need to do things to appeal to the voters they lost in 2024. And in that case, it's somewhat simple. I mean, it's a huge mountain to climb, but it's a very clear task.
Vilma writes,
Trump is doing all he can to alienate the people who put him over the top. When these Medicaid cuts start, the people on Medicaid are old white people, and they're going to, be hurt by this. The people who, that are on Social Security are going to be hurt by this. Are many of them Trump voters? He's already alienating the unions, as Michael mentioned before. And as far as African American and Hispanics, he's doing his best to alienate those as well. So, and so I think he is hurting himself, and those people, if the Democrats play it right, and they're reorganizing now, and they shouldn't panic, they play it right, they're going to get them back.
Yeah. Michael Shure, Jim Avila, you guys are awesome. I've kept you way too long, but I love this conversation with you every Friday. I'm glad to have
48 seconds of sports today.
Well, do you want to do it? Because
I could do 96 seconds next week with Albert.
We can make time. Albert is here. Let's do it. It is 48 seconds of sports.
Albert, Obi scored again. He's 7 goals shy of the record. This is Alexander Ovechkin breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record. Gretzky
Putin lover.
What's that? Putin lover.
He's a Putin lover.
No, he's someone who's afraid to say that he does it. He's a Putin hater, is what it is. And I understand his sentiments there. But so one of the cool things about this is that Wayne Gretzky is going to go around to all these Capitals games and follow the team for when he breaks the record. So I thought, all right, well, when he has 3 goals left, he'll go. No, it's at 5 goals. Gretzky's going to have to go around the country, like to Columbus and wherever, and sit through Capitals games where Ovechkin may not score until he scores. What do you think?
Well, luckily he has been scoring a lot, and the team is really good. So regardless of wherever he's going, might be Columbus, Ohio. Columbus is pretty good this year too. So hopefully Wayne is getting good games to watch. And I know he's been scoring a bunch of empty net goals. I'm just hoping it's not an empty net goal to break the record.
You hope he's bored to Jim Avila hopes he's bored to death.
Yeah, because he's a Trump lover too. He's got a Trump lover watching a Putin lover.
He's the Trump lover, and he's getting a lot of flack from that in Canada right now. Yeah. Quickly to bring it back local, and we only have seconds left. The 49ers, top to bottom, Albert, just cleaning house. What's your quick take on that?
It's good. We needed it. Everyone that we lost, we couldn't have afforded anyways. They got really great contracts. We needed a fresh start. Everyone also that we lost are always injured. So I think we need a fresh start. It sucks seeing the band go when you're so close so many times, but I think it's the medicine you need.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough though. It is tough, and there are a couple that I would have liked to have seen stay on the offensive line, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I think that's 47. 48 seconds of sports. We're
There
there.
you go. 48 seconds of sports it is. Jim Avila, Michael Shure, thank you for being here. Have a really great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Thank you. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And as we move forward, we go to the Culture Blaster. I want to make sure to give him enough time, which he often does not get on this show. But it really wouldn't be a true Mark Thompson show without doing something else first. So let's go and thank some people. How about this one? Mark Francis 76 with a happy Friday. Harry Morgan, $5. Never fear. The masterful McAllister is here. Oh, Harry, thank you. Yeah, today maybe I get to be the number one McAllister. I mean, it's a long shot, but I'm gonna take it. Absolutely. Luis for $5. Thank you. Wes jumping in with $5. Huge thank you as well. Luis for Michael Shure, 48 seconds of sports. Michael becoming our 51st state, creating more favorable financial situations with US dollars is the only way they get the cup. I should have put it to him. I am so sorry.
Luis is referring to no Canadian team winning the Stanley Cup in quite some time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you could decipher that. Thank you very much. Asborn Knudsen with 50, is it Kroner? Thank you for that. Pushovers don't win fights, he writes. MAGA don't understand subtle strength or character. We need to be brave, truthful, and assertive to claim leadership. I think that's true. And thank you for the comment. I really appreciate it. And for everyone who contributes to the show and keeps it going, you are so appreciated. Thank you so much. I think, was that enough of a Mark Thompson show time waster? Let's hope. I hope it was. Let's move on to the Culture Blaster. Michael Snyder. He comes and goes on a rainbow. It is Michael Snyder, everybody. Yay.
Hey,
there's the rainbow. There it is.
Oh my God.
Whoop. That was a nice ride. Welcome
It's
aboard.
like Rainbow Interruptus. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, look, of course I listen to Jim and I listen to Michael every Friday before I do my segment. And it just made me think, I mean, it's horrible, as every member of the current administration is, as they lie, cheat, steal, and try to dismantle our democracy. They are to be admired for one thing, Kim. From orange-hued, combed-over top to sniveling bottom, they have the most punchable faces in the history of American government.
Talking about being a brawler. Of course, we don't advocate striking anyone, do we?
No, absolutely not. Let's get down to what's really important today. It's Mark's Madness, or as I like to call it, the madness of King Mark. I mean, I got my bracket in. It's looking good so far.
Okay.
I do want to say it's interesting that Mark isn't here for my segment today as Mark's Madness ramps up. And I know he had that procedure, and I hope he has a swift and total recovery. But I am betting he scheduled it so he wouldn't have to face my wrath. I mean, to be honest, I'm a little peeved that my immortal drop, another classic Mark Thompson time waster, isn't in the tournament this year.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and that's a really strong drop too. It's hard to believe it was left out.
Hey, neither of my other beloved drops are in either. Like, whoa, Mark, you're tripping, and my other favorite, must you keep hitting your dinger? Anyway, there's always next year.
You know what did make it in? I blame you.
I know, Kim. You are my number one McAllister. I just want you to know.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Our love to Lucy as well. Okay, so let's jump into these movies. There's a lot of them this week.
We're going to try to get to as many as possible, but I want to actually concentrate at the top on the movie that's probably the biggest and perhaps most controversial release this weekend for something so simple and family-friendly as a live-action movie based on Walt Disney's groundbreaking late 1930s animated feature film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I have been fairly amused and slightly baffled by all of these controversies surrounding what has been titled Disney's Snow White, I guess, as opposed to someone else's Snow White. I don't know, the Brother Grimm's, for example.
It's all about marketing, Michael, right? You got to slap your name on there.
I know the Grimm fairy tale is still the source, by the way. Anyway, regarding controversy, I actually expected to show up at the critics screening and see 3 dueling demonstrations. The Snow White supremacists, who are offended that the title character is being played by Rachel Zegler, a talented singer and actress who is half Latin American instead of someone, white as the driven snow. There's the anti-Israeli contingent that's offended by the ostensibly Zionist stance of evil queen actress Gal Gadot, who is, by the way, a native of Israel. And then there's the little people lobby. I think, they are offended by Disney going with actors enhanced by motion capture computer animation as the 7 dwarves instead of casting little people. And this group has been led by their spokesperson, Peter Dinklage. And I really expect, oh my God, we're going to see like a Clash of the Titans at this screening. But no, instead of that kind of hysteria, I walked into the theater, it was quiet, and I watched what was a serviceable adaptation of the classic, which managed to produce a fairly faithful rendering of the original cartoon in live action form and added some catchy new songs by the composing team that wrote the music for the Broadway hit Dear Evan Hansen. Those songwriters, they kind of came through here, although I couldn't hum a single one of the songs now, a day or two later. That said, they kept a few of the most memorable numbers from the animated Snow White, which was smart. And Hi Ho and Whistle While You Work were there. You have to have them there. Yeah. They did replace I'm Wishing with a new wishing song that the Dear Evan Hansen guys wrote, and they pointedly dumped Someday My Prince Will Come, except as a melody on the soundtrack, since this revised Snow White does not need a prince to save her. The lack of consent. But there is still the lack of consent, true love's kiss, but she doesn't need a prince to save her. In fact, the 2025 Snow White makes Snow's goal not to be rescued and married off to a prince, but instead to be a good, kind, and just ruler like her parents, the king and queen of their realm. Of course, royal mom and dad are out of the picture shortly after they're introduced here. I think the queen dies of some illness. The king foolishly remarries, and wife number 2 is the evil queen, who, by the way, for those who don't know, is named Grimhilda. I don't know if they even use her name in this movie or, but that's her name from the Grimm's fairy tales.
And that's Gal Gadot, right?
Yeah, that's Gal Gadot. So
And
the
who's-
evil queen gets the king to go off into battle where he presumably dies. And as soon as her magic mirror tells her that stepdaughter Snow White, reduced to maid service in the castle, is more of a babe than she is, the evil queen enacts her reign of magical terror and condemns Snow White, the kingdom's rightful heir, to death at the hands of a huntsman who can't do the deed. I mean, you know the story. This is
Right.
not spoiler territory. Everybody knows the story.
Right.
So, to hide out, Snow shacks up with the dwarves in a platonic way. The evil queen disguises herself as an old hag who gets Snow to eat a poison apple, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Okay. The movie does have a lovely introductory number with the king, queen, and young Snow White having this joyful street party with the commoners, Snow White is more empowered and proactive than in the past, and she's aided in her quest to regain the kingdom, not by a prince, but by Jonathan, a charming rogue of a rebel, and his band of 7 comrades who live in the woods and plot against the queen, kind of like Robin Hood and his merry men. And then, of course, the dwarves. 7 rebels, 7 dwarves, 14 characters. Things are starting to get cluttered. By the way, it makes you wonder if the rebels were originally going to take the place of the CGI dwarves, but those dwarves are given a bit more texture in the script than you would expect by the screenwriter and playwright Erin Cressida Wilson, who she's got a pretty good track record. She wrote Secretary, which I've always enjoyed, the movie Secretary, and she's assisted, I think there was a little script doctoring by Greta Gerwig. In any case, there's a little wryness to this mild reinvention. Gadot is elegantly sinister in demeanor. The old hag makeup on her is amazing. The guy playing the rebel leader, Andrew Burnap, is cute. The dwarves are amusing, and the art direction is almost Wicked level. But it's Zegler who's the best thing about this. She played Maria in Spielberg's West Side Story remake, and she was fantastic. And she's pretty wonderful in the potentially thankless role of Snow White. Sweet, of nature and voice. I mean, she may look very much like the cartoon version, albeit with a light tan, but she's determined to make her kingdom in the world a better place. And I do want it to be noted before we move on that this is not so modernized that the dwarves greet Snow White by saying, "Hi ho." You know, it just doesn't have that going on. It seems like it's trying to imbue the traditional tale with some contemporary sensibilities, and thus it occasionally feels neither here nor there, despite the efforts of director Mark Webb. This is the guy who did the absolutely adorable rom-com 500 Days of Summer and the amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield as Spidey. Disney seems to be determined to mine their intellectual property with live-action remakes and prequels to the animated gems in the vault. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Snow White is somewhere in the middle, and it should please families in search of wholesome entertainment. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I'll just close by saying that there is a fine line between timeless and tired. Snow White is in theaters.
Oh no, I really love the live action remake of Beauty and the Beast. So
that was one of the good ones. I am not going to argue. You know, let's be straight up about this. The Jungle Book with the live Mowgli in a CGI environment was fantastic, directed by Jon Favreau. Cruella, the prequel to 101 Dalmatians, was actually rather good. But, you know, the Cinderella, the Lion King prequel, I didn't like those very much. And this is like, again, right in the middle. Not terrible. Michael Snyder, The Mark Thompson Show. Put it on the poster.
You give it a not terrible. You give it a meh.
Give it a meh. Okay. The Assessment is a smart sci-fi minus a lot of tech trappings. And it also has thought-provoking social commentary with some nasty, funny moments. And it's brilliantly performed by its three leads, Elizabeth Olsen, Himesh Patel, and Alicia Vikander. And a few significant supporting players, including Minnie Driver and Indira Varma, who are in one or two significant scenes. So Mia, played by Olsen, and Aryan, played by Patel, are would-be parents who live in a dystopian future where the more privileged members of the human race dwell somewhat comfortably in a climate-controlled environment and are only allowed to procreate with official approval of the state. That requires would-be parents like Mia and Aryan to undergo an assessment of their suitability to be parents by an assessor, here played by Vikander. And that assessor is sent to their home to observe them for a week. So the conflict between the put-upon couple seeking a child and the examiner searching for any reason to deny them is constantly compelling here. And the assessor is given what appears to be free rein in the examination, including all manner of questioning, role play, and tricks, which give the actors a veritable playground of situations to explore in their interactions. You know, the assessment echoes other science fictional tales in its investigation of governmental population control, but its intimacy and its cleverness and its cast elevated it. It's the first feature film directed by Fleur Fortune, and it bodes well for her future endeavors and for those of screenwriters John Donnelly and the screenwriting team of, and this is how they're billed, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas. Maybe the Thomases were denied a child by the assessor. I don't know. They turned to screenwriting. The Assessment is in select theaters. I thought it was very good.
Oh, I like the idea of this because, you know, there's always those people, you think, you look at them and go, there really should be a test in order to have kids. There should be some kind of class that you need to take. It's harder to get a driver's license than it is to, you know, to give birth to a human being, which you're responsible for guiding and making into this good person. And so maybe a class or some kind of, I don't know, training would be good. But the premise of the assessment is pretty scary.
Yeah, but it's beautifully done and very smart. They live kind of in a secluded cove area. And again, this whole world of the future is under a dome, and there are people living outside of this secure area. And that becomes a plot point as well. You know, I think you're right about that. The parents test. It's just, you know, I don't know. Look at what they're turning out. I mean, seriously, come on, people.
They gave me my baby to head home from the hospital, and I thought, really, you're trusting me? That's it?
Right.
I guess I'll figure this out.
I think you've done a good job so far, but okay. You know, I like my movies lean and mean. and Locked fills the bill, if not the tank, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. It runs a tight 93 minutes. Locked is essentially a two-hander starring Bill Skarsgård of the Scandinavian acting family. You know, his dad is Stellan, his brother is Alexander. And he played Pennywise in the It movies, as well as being the latest actor to play the title vigilante in The Crow. And Sir Anthony Hopkins of the British acting aristocracy, of so many notable credits, we don't have the time. So the action goes down primarily inside a luxury SUV that is actually a potentially deadly trap. Locked is based on 4x4, an Argentinian mix of thriller and horror that's set in Buenos Aires, but it works quite well in an American city. Skarsgård plays petty thief Eddie, whose marriage is in shambles, who has disappointed his young daughter, and who is desperate for money to try and make things right. So Eddie decides to break into a pristine parked SUV, finds the door unlocked, and gets inside to begin rooting around in search of valuables. So Eddie digs into the glove compartment, as one does, finds nothing, and tries to leave, but to his shock and distress, an auto lock has been engaged, and the doors and windows refuse to open, hence the terse and effective title, Locked. Although that could also refer to the lives we could be trapped in. So, not to spoil very much, this is again the setup. A phone in the dashboard rings. It's the owner of the car, a doctor named William, who is played by Hopkins. And apparently, William has been a victim of crime before. And in an attempt to visit justice upon any criminal who would try to take advantage of him again, has set up the customized car to ensnare any lowlifes who would see it as easy pickings. He informs Eddie he's being punished for his attempted theft, and things escalate from there. So Locked was directed by David Yarovsky, whose evil superpowered kid movie Brightburn was a twisted treat that I gobbled up, and the tidy script by Michael Ross cuts like a scalpel, and Skarsgård and Hopkins deliver the goods in what is a pretty modest product compared to other movies they've each done, but it's quite effective. And by the way, Locked was produced by Sam Raimi, who knows horror, although those aspects are toned down here. Locked is in theaters, and I recommend it.
Do you think is this a horror movie?
It is a horror movie, but there's not a lot of blood and guts, but it's got pretty tense stuff. It's a thriller, it's a bit of a mystery, and it's got some horror elements, but they are nowhere near, the kind of gory displays that we were discussing last week with Novocaine and various other films.
Good to know.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, all righty. Let's talk about Odessa. Our pal Tim Sika reviewed it earlier. He covered it last Friday, I believe, on the After Party Live, but it didn't come out till this week. And hey, it's another dystopia. So Odessa, which is the first name of the movie's young heroine, is a rambling, folky, sci-fi musical drama romance. Can you combine more things here? It's set in a trashed future Western world. And, it's got some decent folk and rock tunes and some very colorful and creative effects. And lead actress and veteran of Stranger Things, Sadie Sink, who plays Odessa, swims through it all unscathed. Odessa is a farm girl, bequeathed the guitar by her ramblin' folky father. Imagine Pete Seeger as a wandering stranger in a strange land. And she is said to be the legendary seventh son, even though she's a daughter, destined to save society from itself, or more particularly from an evil evangelical leader who has hypnotized a doped-up world with his reality TV game show. Hey, sound familiar? Maybe just a little bit. The screenwriter and director Jeremy Jasper also participated in a lot of the what we would call the songwriting, I assume. And there's a good supporting cast. Kelvin Harrison Jr. plays Yuri Dervish, who is the love interest for her. Murray Bartlett from The White Lotus plays the evangelical leader Plutanovich, and Regina Hall plays one of his kind of hit women, Neon Dion. I thought it was decent, and it's actually on Hulu, so if you have Disney Plus, you can watch it.
You thought this one was decent. All right, that's more than a meh. We'll take it.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was ambitious and okay. Quickly, we'll try to zip through some of these, the detritus of the week. Ash is a science fiction movie. about an astronaut who awakens, and she's on this kind of really dangerous seeming planet, and everybody in the space station where she's living seems to have been killed. And who was it? And suddenly a guy shows up, one of her fellow crewmen, and that might be the person responsible for all these deaths. And they start looking into what happened, and we don't know whether he's playing against her or she's, got weird hallucination or bizarre visions that have been kind of imbued in her by being in this alien environment. In space, no one can hear you say, "Hey, I think I saw this movie before." It's not bad, and it has this frenetic, kinetic visual style and banging soundtrack music, courtesy of the director Flying Lotus, who was a musician and actor as well. And the actors, Isa Gonzalez as the woman and Aaron Paul of Breaking Bad and Westworld as the guy, are really good. And there's a lot of visual trickery, and I thought this was okay, but I thought it was the kind of okay where you would sort of maybe want to watch it at home. When it gets to streaming, it's in theaters. It's not great, and it again recalls so many other classic films that maybe that works against it, but I didn't think it was bad. I do have another unrestrained recommendation for you, though.
That's another one of those. What Michael Snyder? It was fine. It was a meh.
It was no. Let me give you the good one. The good one I've been saving for the latter part of the segment. Misericordia is the movie, and tipping a cap or make that a beret to the film style. The noirish film style that the French have always loved and adapted on their own. Misericordia goes to a small French village where Jeremy, played by Felix Kysel, a prodigal son of sorts, returns from his life in the city of Toulouse to his hometown in the southwesterly part of France to attend the funeral of a local baker who taught him the craft. So now he's out of work. So Jeremy considers staying around for a while when the baker's widow, played by the terrific French actress Catherine Frot, suggests he might take over her late husband's business. Although it seems as if the widow was a mother figure to Jeremy when he was growing up, there's how do I put this? A certain frisson to their post-funeral interactions. And that does not sit well with the baker's son, who admittedly was childhood pals with Jeremy, but they seemed to be rivals when they were kids. And I think that stuck with them into adulthood. As it happens, Jeremy is in no hurry to return to Toulouse. And to make matters more uncomfortable, he's sucking up to a couple other locals, including the local priest. It's all very disturbing, thanks to Jeremy's enigmatic and somewhat surprising behavior. For anyone who likes the works and the films made from the novels of Patricia Highsmith, Jeremy could be Tom Ripley's French country cousin. So Misericordia is the latest from a very darkly thoughtful filmmaker, Alain Guiraudie, who made a similarly unsettling splash with the 2013 movie Stranger by the Lake. His measured direction and sneaky screenplay for Misericordia is at that level. And his cast, the creepy Kysel, the great character actress Frot, Jean-Baptiste Durand as the baker's son, and Jacques Develay as the priest are in tune with the material. It's come for the wooded beauty of the autumnal French countryside, stay for the queasy goings-on, the slithery sex, and the shard of violence. Misericordia is in French with English subtitles. It is in select theaters.
And you recommend that one?
I do. I think it's pretty damn good.
And you have one more for us, or no?
Well, yeah, I think we should just talk a little bit about movies. I'm sorry. Let's talk a little about television for a second.
Please.
Yeah, I want to briefly make note of the current increase in global franchising. American television has a history of trying to remake series TV hits from the UK, right, with varying success. You've had Till Death Do Us Part, which became All in the Family. Steptoe and Son became Sanford and Son. Shameless became Shameless, etc. There have also been some high-end Scandinavian shows like The Killing and The Bridge that were adapted for the US and England, where The Bridge became The Tunnel. And let's not forget The Office, which was a wildly successful sitcom here in the States, as everyone knows, that was spun off from its UK original. But The Office was so adaptable that versions in 11 other countries were made with what I assume was some degree of success. And I bring this up because, as I noted a couple Fridays ago, I'm watching the French series HPI. There are versions in 5 other countries, including the American interpretation, High Potential. HPI is available on Hulu right now in various versions. And now I see the same thing is happening with Ghosts. That's the British hit paranormal sitcom about a couple inheriting a once stately house, which is haunted by ghosts of different eras. And the wife has a head injury and she can see the ghosts while her husband can't. This became a ratings giant in its U.S. incarnation. It's on Thursday nights on CBS. At least 2 other versions have dropped. A German one called Ghosts DE, I guess meaning Deutschland, and now a French version called Ghosts Fantôme en Héritage, Inherited Ghosts. You know, I looked at trailers for the German and the French versions, and damn, they duplicate so much of the UK and US versions with similar sorts of ghosts. There's always an early human, a priggish aristocratic lady, a military man from one era or another, and a scoutmaster, or in Germany, a sporty woman who died from an arrow in the neck. And to make matters crazier, the French comic actor Bruno Sanchez is a regular on both HPI and France's Ghosts, which, like its German counterpart, is not available to stream in the U.S. yet, unlike HPI, which you can watch on Hulu. I just think it's remarkable. You know, we do live in a global society, and if there was ever an indication, it would be this.
Is this kid-friendly, Ghosts?
Yeah, if you haven't watched the American version, it's absolutely delightful.
Okay,
it's on
wonderful.
Thursdays on CBS, and they always have sort of an interracial couple, which is, you know, very 21st century at the heart of it. And, you know, it's the German and French ones look good, you know, and again, HPI, you can watch it with subtitles or dubbed into English on Hulu, and I kind of like it better than High Potential, but, you know, that's only been 1 season here in the States, and HPI is up to its 4th. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about it because I just find it remarkable, this bizarre cultural expansion going on, you know, at least on the television front.
We're going to recap your movies, Michael Snyder. Snow White, it's a more empowered Snow White, you said. Same story. It's in the middle between what works and what doesn't. You didn't hate it and you didn't love it. The Assessment, you found it compelling. You really liked The Assessment. You say you recommend this one. Locked, great script. You said it was great acting. The movie you called very effective, and you recommend Locked. Odessa, it's a musical. You said there's decent music and decent special effects in this one. You said it's decent and okay. Ash, you said it's not bad. You said it's a watch-at-home movie. If anything, that's Ash. And Misericordia, I mispronounced. You said this is a great cast. You really like this movie. In French subtitles, you say it is recommended. As for streaming, you're recommending Ghosts. You said it's really good. So, and that's on CBS.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. It's available for people to watch here in the States. And again, I couldn't say more positive about HPI, the French version of High Potential. And I just been surprised when I saw they were dropping 2 more versions of Ghosts in other countries. And we had seen, you know, that happen with High Potential or, you know, it's various offshoots. I just thought it was kind of fascinating to me. I'm
excited to see this because I'm always looking for something I can watch with my 11-year-old, and there's, you know, not always a lot of offerings. So thank you for recommending it, Michael Snyder. I appreciate you. Any sports related items before we send you off on your rainbow?
The Dubs have been fantastic. Love our Warriors. I heard Michael discussing the state of the changing roster in 49er land, and I'm watching that with some degree of interest and hope. And the Warriors are off on a road trip. Steph Curry banged his tailbone pretty seriously, so he's not going to be quite available at the top of the road trip, but they seem to be on a roll since Jimmy Butler was added to the team. And Butler returns to his former home in Miami to face off with the Heat as a Warrior. So that's kind of interesting this coming week. Other than that, it's always a pleasure, Kim. And we'll hopefully see you next week.
Thank you, Michael Snyder. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Hi, Michael Snyder.
Farewell.
Farewell. Have a great weekend. We have come to the end of the Mark Thompson Show. I know. How did we do it without Mark Thompson? I don't know the answer. A couple people to thank. Asborn Knudsen with another 50 kroner saying anything Elon owns, we need to boycott. He says let him go destitute, then deport him to Mars with a sack of potatoes. Peter Newton with 888 for the Caps, the only thing in my hometown of Washington to cheer for these days. Thank you, Peter Newton. Thank you, Asborn. And thank you to everyone who has contributed to the show. Thank you, Albert, for all your help. To Nikki Medoro of The Nikki Medoro Show, to Michael Shure, and to Jim Avila. Huge thank you to everyone stopping by today and making this show what it was. Have a great weekend, Albert.
And Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster. Right?
And Michael Snyder. How could I forget him? Absolutely. Yeah. Any last minute update on Mark's Madness?
Let me double check here. Voting will be on pause this weekend. We'll continue on the show.
Okay.
I'm
week.
Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show.
This up before we go.
Bye-bye.
Going back to Texas and a 50-50. We'll be really close today.
There it is. The After Party Live is next. Please join me. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.